My wife, Melanie, told me it was either her or my mom. I thought she was joking until she walked out. 2 days later, I found out she'd been planning her exit for months and even mocked me behind my back. Guess I was too blind to see it coming. You have to choose. It's either me or your mother. She said it just like that. No yelling. No drama. Just a quiet, steady voice across the dinner table while the lasagna I made went cold on our plates. My name is Travis. I'm 38 years old, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been married to my wife, Melanie, for 6 years. And until that night, I thought we were solid. At first, I actually laughed. I thought maybe she was joking, or maybe she'd seen one too many reality TV fights. Okay, wow, I said, chuckling nervously. Did something happen today, or? Her eyes didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She didn't look up from her plate. I'm serious, Travis. I'm tired of coming second in my own marriage. The air shifted. My fork clinked against the plate as I set it down, my appetite disappearing in an instant. What does that mean? I asked. You don't come second. She looked up then. Eyes cold. I've been asking you to set boundaries with her for years. Every time I bring up something your mom said or did, you defend her. You dismiss me. I sat back in my chair, stunned. She's my mom. She raised me. I'm not gonna just cut her out. No one's asking you to cut her out, Melanie said calmly. I'm asking you to put me first. For once. I couldn't think of a single thing to say. My mind was spinning. I'd always assumed that Melanie and Mom just had normal tension. The usual daughter-in-law, mother-in-law stuff. Nothing that couldn't be worked through. You really mean that? I said finally. You want me to choose? Melanie nodded once. Yes. I tried to trace the path that had led us here. To this moment, with her looking at me like she didn't even recognize me. I thought of all the dinners with my mom where Melanie had gone quiet. All the comments she'd brushed off with a fake smile. The complaints she'd brought up afterward that I had dismissed as not a big deal. Maybe I'd missed more than I realized. You're asking me to cut off the one person who's always been there for me, I said, my voice lower now. No, she replied. I'm asking you to be there for me. The way you're always there for her. Guilt punched through my stomach like a steel fist. I looked at the woman I'd promised to love and protect, and I saw pain I hadn't noticed before. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what the right answer was. I just knew I felt like I was being torn in half. And somehow, whatever I chose, someone I loved was going to feel like I betrayed them. That night, I barely slept. I lay there next to Melanie in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her breathing, even calm, like she'd finally made peace with something. Meanwhile, I felt like I was unraveling. I started thinking back, trying to trace all the little signs I might have ignored. All the times Melanie had said something about my mom that I brushed off as an overreaction. There was that dinner a couple years ago, Thanksgiving at our place. My mom had taken one look at the turkey Melanie made and said, well, at least it's not dry this year. I had laughed at the time, thinking she was just being her usual snarky self. But Melanie had gone quiet for the rest of the evening. When I asked her about it later, she said, your mom has a way of making me feel like nothing I do is good enough. I told her mom didn't mean it like that she just had a sharp tongue, that she was old school. Now I wondered if that was the start of it. Then there was the time we were picking out tiles for the bathroom renovation. My mom came with us, uninvited, and halfway through the showroom visit she started saying things like, Melanie, I know you like modern, but Travis has always preferred classic. Isn't that right, honey? And I just nodded, trying to keep the peace. Melanie didn't say anything until we got back in the car. She didn't have to. Her silence said everything. But I didn't really listen. I told myself this was all normal in law friction. Everyone goes through this. There were other times, too. Dozens, probably. Like when my mom would show up unannounced with bags of groceries, ignoring Melanie's carefully planned meals. Or the time she accidentally called Melanie by my ex's name. Twice. Each time Melanie brought it up, I'd tell her she was reading too much into it. That she needed to not take it so personally. God, I even used that exact phrase. More than once. And now? Now I saw it all differently. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized she wasn't just venting. She was asking for help. Asking me to back her up. And I didn't. I started to feel this rising frustration. Not just at myself, but at Melanie too. Why did it have to be so black and white? Why an ultimatum? Why not just talk about it again like adults? But deep down, a part of me already knew the answer. Because we talked about it. Many times. And I hadn't done a damn thing. That's when a darker thought crept in. One I didn't want to admit, even to myself. Was Melanie trying to isolate me from my mother? Had all this been building toward her, trying to control who I could be close to? I hated thinking that. Hated the implication. But when you're being forced to choose between your wife and your mother, your brain starts to go to strange places. And still, beneath the confusion and frustration and guilt, I felt something else rising. Regret. Regret that I hadn't taken any of this seriously until it was too late. And the worst part? I still had no idea what I was going to do. The next morning, she was already packing when I walked into the bedroom. At first, I didn't even realize what she was doing. She had one of the suitcases on the bed, her hands moving in this quiet, efficient way, folding shirts, rolling jeans, tucking toiletries into the side pocket like she'd been preparing for this moment all along. "Where are you going?" I asked, even though I already knew. She didn't answer right away, just zipped the small case shut and pulled the bigger one out from the closet. "Melanie," I said again, firmer this time. "Where are you going?" She turned to face me. "I need space, Travis." "For how long?" "I don't know." Something inside me twisted. "You're just walking out? After all this time?" She paused, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I gave you a chance to choose. You didn't. Because it's not that simple," I said, my voice rising. "She's my mom, Melanie. She's not some coworker I can cut off because you don't get along." She didn't flinch. "And I'm your wife. I shouldn't have to compete for your loyalty every time she decides to interfere. I've never made you compete." "Yes, you have," she snapped, her voice sharp now. "Every time she insulted me and you laughed it off. Every time she crossed a line and you said she didn't mean it. Every time I asked for you to have my back and you didn't. That's you making me compete." I felt like I couldn't breathe, like the room was closing in on me. "I'm trying," I said, quieter now. I didn't know it was this bad." "That's the problem," she said. "You didn't know? Because you didn't want to." She grabbed the last suitcase and started toward the door. I followed her, still in my t-shirt and sweatpants, heart pounding like I was watching something irreversible slip through my fingers. "Melanie, please," I said. "Just talk to me. Stay. Let's work through this. Don't do this." She stopped at the front door, hand on the knob, still not looking at me. "You're a mama's boy, Travis," she said, flat and cold. "And maybe you always will be." Then she opened the door, stepped outside, and closed it behind her. Just like that, she was gone. I stood there in the hallway for what felt like hours, surrounded by silence, my legs rooted to the floor like they didn't know how to move without her. And for the first time, I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, she'd been right all along. 2 days later, I was still in a fog. The house felt colder, quieter, like even the walls knew she was gone. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a text. Something, even an angry one. But there was nothing, just silence. Then my sister called. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "Are you home?" "Yeah," I mumbled. "I'm coming over." I didn't ask why. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. When she showed up 20 minutes later, she didn't come with small talk. She didn't ask how I was doing. She walked straight to the kitchen table, pulled out her phone, and slid it across to me. "I think you need to see this." I picked it up. There were screenshots, messages, dozens of them. Group chats between Melanie and a few of her close friends. Some names I recognized, others I didn't. The first message hit me like a brick. "Honestly, if he chooses his mommy over me, I'm out. I've already got the apartment lined up just in case." Another one. "Travis is sweet, but dumb. He still doesn't get that I've been setting this up for months." My hands started to shake. I kept scrolling. "His mom is insufferable, but honestly he's worse. Always apologizing for her like it's cute. Newsflash, dude, it's not. If I have to sit through one more Sunday dinner with her breathing down my neck, I'm gonna stab someone with a salad fork." And then the one that made my chest cave in. "I swear to God, he's too stupid to even notice the way I've been distancing. The man still thinks I'm just stressed. LMAO. I dropped the phone onto the table like it had burned me. I looked at my sister. "Where did you get these?" She crossed her arms. "One of her friends is dating a guy I know. She showed him the messages one night, bragging about how Melanie's been playing some long game with you. He took screenshots and sent them to me." I stared at the table, trying to process it. "She planned this," I whispered. "She was waiting for me to mess up?" "It looks that way," my sister said gently. "I'm sorry." For a second, I didn't say anything. Then I stood up and walked into the living room, trying to steady my breathing. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I thought about all those nights I stayed up trying to talk things through with her. All the times I doubted myself, wondered if I'd failed her somehow. Turns out, I wasn't even in the real conversation. She was venting to her friends, mocking me, mocking my mom, while I was sitting there thinking we just had communication issues. And the worst part? She'd been planning to leave before the ultimatum. All that talk about choosing her, it was never about respect. It was about control. My stomach turned. The guilt I'd been carrying? The confusion? The nights of staring at the ceiling thinking maybe I'd ruined everything? She wanted me to feel that. Because if I felt broken, then she was in control. I sank down onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. I had no idea who I'd really married, but I was finally starting to understand who she was. And it scared the hell out of me. The next morning, I opened our joint bank account out of habit. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. Just trying to get my mind off the messages, off Melanie's voice in my head calling me sweet but dumb. But as soon as the account loaded, my stomach dropped. $10,000. Gone. Withdrawn 3 days ago. The same day she left. I stared at the screen like the numbers might somehow shift if I blinked hard enough. I clicked through the transaction history. It wasn't a transfer to another account. It wasn't a bill or a scheduled payment. It was a straight withdrawal at a branch across town, one I knew neither of us ever used. What the hell? I grabbed my phone and called her. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I sent a text. Me, did you take $10,000 from our account? No reply. I waited 5 minutes. Then 10. Me, I'm serious, Melanie. I need to know what's going on. Finally, 3 dots popped up. Her message was short. Melanie, I needed it. Don't start. Don't start? I stared at the screen, jaw tightening. Me, that's our savings. You can't just pull that kind of money without telling me. Another pause. Then, Melanie, I wouldn't have had to if you'd been listening to me this whole time. I had to read it twice. My hands were trembling with anger now. The way she spun it, like I had forced her hand, like draining our savings was some justified consequence of me not choosing her. No explanation. No apology. Just blame. A pit opened in my gut, that same helpless feeling I'd had at the door when she walked out. But now it was worse. Because this wasn't just emotional. This was financial. Intentional. And it hit me all at once. This wasn't a meltdown. This wasn't an overwhelmed wife making a rash decision. She'd been planning this. The money wasn't just about an escape plan. It was leverage. A way to hurt me, shake me, keep me off balance. I paced the living room, heart racing, trying to make sense of it. Why that amount? Why that bank branch? And then a scarier thought crept in. What else don't I know? Was this just the beginning? Was there more money missing? Was she setting me up for something worse? I sat down, pulled up the full account history, and started combing through it line by line. Every transaction, every transfer, every credit card linked. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I had a sinking feeling I wasn't going to like what I found. And for the first time since she left, I stopped feeling sad. I started feeling scared. By the next evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. Not just about the money, about all of it. The messages, the withdrawal, the cold detachment in Melanie's texts. I felt like I was unraveling thread by thread, and I didn't even know what kind of thing I was pulling apart. So I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. Travis? Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Can I ask you something weird? There was a pause. Of course. I hesitated. Did Melanie ever ask you anything strange? About money? Or like, your will, or anything like that? Silence. Then, slowly. Why are you asking me that? Because I need to know. Please. Did she ever bring up your finances when I wasn't around? I could hear her exhale. She did. Once. My grip tightened on the phone. What did she say? She asked about my retirement account, Mom said cautiously. And whether the house was in your name or mine. My blood ran cold. When was this? A few months ago. I thought it was odd at the time, but she said she was just thinking about the future. You know, planning for kids, helping us consolidate family assets. I didn't want to make it a big thing. I sat down slowly, like my legs had given out. She also asked if I had a trust set up. If I had you as the beneficiary. I remember because I changed the subject quickly. My head started to throb. She asked about the trust? I repeated. Mom sighed. I didn't want to bring it up, Travis. I figured maybe I misunderstood. Maybe she was just trying to be helpful. But she hadn't misunderstood. And it wasn't helpful. It was calculated. I hung up and stared at the wall for what felt like forever. Then I got up, opened my laptop, and pulled up the email Melanie had sent me months ago, one I'd forgotten about until that moment. Subject, joint long-term financial planning ideas, smiley face. I had skimmed it at the time. It was full of smiley faces and soft language, asking if I'd ever talked to my mom about legacy planning, about potentially moving assets into our name sooner rather than later, just to simplify things. I remember thinking it was oddly timed. We weren't even trying for kids yet, but I didn't think too hard about it. I never did. Now it was all clicking into place. She'd been planning to control the money. Not just mine. My family's. What I thought was a marriage, a partnership, had been a slow, quiet campaign. One where I was the clueless figurehead and she was pulling the strings. She hadn't just wanted me to choose her over my mom. She wanted access. Power. And when she didn't get it, she walked. I closed the laptop and leaned back, the breath leaving my chest in one slow, painful gust. It wasn't about boundaries. It wasn't about love. It was about greed. We agreed to meet at the cafe near her temporary apartment, a neutral spot halfway between mine and whatever new life she'd started building. It was a gray Tuesday afternoon, overcast and heavy, like the sky itself knew something final was about to happen. I arrived early, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't sit in that house anymore, pacing around with all the weight of unanswered questions and $10,000 gone. When she walked in, she didn't look rattled. No guilt. No shame. Just calm and put together, like this was a work meeting. She slid into the seat across from me. No hug. No smile. So she said. I nodded. So, I assume this is about the money. That's part of it, I said, folding my hands. But we're way past just money, Melanie. She tilted her head. Travis, I told you. I needed it to get set up. You didn't give me a choice. That line landed like a slap. I leaned forward. You didn't have a choice? Melanie, you drained our account and lied about it. You mocked me behind my back. You asked my mother about her, well, like it was a normal conversation over coffee. She blinked, but she didn't deny it. So what? She said. Your mom has more money than she knows what to do with. And you? You'd rather bend over backward to impress her than take care of your own marriage. I stared at her. So this was your plan? Push me out of my family so you could get closer to the money. She didn't even flinch. I was trying to build something for us. But you're so tied to that woman you can't see straight. You never chose me, Travis. Not once. You're right, I said quietly. I didn't choose. Because I didn't think I had to. I let the words hang there. But now I am choosing. And I'm not choosing you. She looked at me like I had just said something in another language. Excuse me. I sat back, my voice steady now. I'm not chasing you. I'm not fixing this. You made your intentions clear. You don't love me, Melanie. You were managing me. Strategizing. Planning your exit while I was still trying to make things work. She scoffed. Oh, give me a break. You're acting like the victim now? No, I said. I'm not the victim. I'm the guy who finally figured out what you were doing. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside were the notarized documents, the separation agreement, and a demand for the return of half the withdrawn money. Her eyes flicked over it, but she didn't touch it. You're not serious. I'm done being manipulated, I said. You want out? Fine. But I'm not going to let you walk away with everything and paint me as the guy who wouldn't grow up. For the first time, her expression cracked. Just a flicker. Something behind the calm mask faltered. You really want to throw away 6 years over this? No, I said. You already did. She stood, grabbed her purse, and walked out without another word. I didn't watch her go. I didn't need to. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. Filing the papers was easier than I expected. No drama. No drawn-out courtroom scene. Just a visit to the attorney's office, a few signatures, and a final email confirming everything had been submitted. The divorce was official 3 weeks later. It hit me harder than I thought it would. Not the legal part, that felt like closure. It was the quiet afterward. The silence in the house, the missing toothbrush in the bathroom, the space in the closet where her coats used to hang. I wasn't grieving the person I thought I lost. I was grieving the illusion I had lived in for 6 years. She was never who I thought she was. There were good moments, sure. Laughter. Road trips. Movie nights on the couch with popcorn and bad wine. But now that I looked back, I saw the patterns. The little manipulations. The quiet jabs disguised as concern. The way she used silence like a weapon when things didn't go her way. I had mistaken control for connection. That realization gutted me. I took some time off work. A week, just to breathe. My boss didn't ask questions, just nodded and told me to take care of myself. I used the time to do all the things I'd put off. Cleared out the garage, cleaned the attic, finally fixed the squeaky step on the back porch. It helped in a small way. Not because those things mattered, but because they reminded me I still had agency. That I could make things better, even in small, quiet ways. One afternoon, I found myself back at my mom's place. She opened the door, and for a moment, she just looked at me like she was afraid I'd break. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Getting there. We had tea in the backyard, like we used to before things got complicated. We didn't talk much about Melanie. We didn't need to. Mom just sat beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand, letting the silence say what words couldn't. Later that night, I lay in bed alone and realized something strange. I felt lighter. There was grief, yes, and anger. But underneath it all was something new, a quiet sense of freedom. Like I had stepped out of a fog I didn't know I was in. The marriage was over. The lies were behind me. The money was still a mess. I wasn't sure if I'd ever see that 10 grand again. But it didn't matter as much as I thought it would. Because for the first time in a long time, I could see the road ahead. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't easy. But it was mine. And I was finally ready to walk it. It was a Saturday morning when my phone rang. I was sitting on the porch, drinking coffee, and trying to convince myself to start the day. The number flashing on the screen belonged to my sister. I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Hey, I said, wary. She didn't waste time. You're not going to believe this, she said. Melanie's been in touch with Dad. I blinked. Our dad? Yeah. She's been calling him. Texting. She even met with him last week. That didn't make sense. Our father had been out of the picture for decades. He left when we were kids and only reached out again a few years ago, mostly to ask for help. We'd never been close. Melanie had met him once. That was it. Why? I asked. She's asking him about your family's finances, she said flatly. She told him she's helping you sort things out. I sat up straighter, coffee forgotten. What kind of questions? Everything. If he has any inheritance left. If there's a trust. If Mom had ever mentioned assets that didn't go through probate when Grandma died. She even asked about the house he grew up in, if it was sold or still in the family. I ran a hand over my face, trying to process what I was hearing. She said she's helping me? I asked. That's what he told me, she said. He didn't know you guys were divorced. He thought you were still together. She's playing him, Travis. Of course she was. My stomach churned. This wasn't just a divorce fallout. This was strategic. Calculated. She was working every possible angle, digging through whatever connections I had left to see if there was more to take. And she chose the one person I never would have expected. Our estranged father. I thought back to the email she sent about my mom's will. The subtle push to merge finances. The questions she asked during Sunday dinners that seemed harmless at the time. She had been playing a long game. And I had been a fool. I don't even talk to Dad, I muttered. I know, my sister said. That's what scared me. I sat there, staring out at the lawn, the weight of it all pressing down like a storm cloud. She never loved me, I said finally. There was silence on the other end. Then, I'm sorry, Travis. But I wasn't looking for sympathy. I was just finally facing the truth. This wasn't about love. It never had been. It was about access. To my life. To my family. To anything she could manipulate. And she'd almost gotten away with it.